net reduction in expenditures. In most cases, though, like I'm all for preventative care, and it can be a great thing, basically because it can improve people's overall health. But the idea that it's going to be so cost effective that it actually reduces total expenditures is usually there's not a lot of evidence for that in most cases. Like you should still do it probably because again, health is something that we place a really high value on. You can see that just with like the VSL calculations. But this sort of hope that you're going to actually end up like reducing overall healthcare expenditures is probably not. It's true in some cases, but it's probably not it's probably more the exception than the rule. Anyway, so we start out here basically looking at the people who are most likely to get a heart attack. These people with high cholesterol who are somewhat older and have a history of heart disease, and treating them costs basically nothing or even negative. And then you kind of move up the next categories to basically put men who are over 60 and have somewhat high cholesterol level, so cholesterol level 180, on a low cholesterol diet, and that has some expense, which is like $12,000. But if you think you're getting a life year saved for spending $12,000 on that intervention, then it would be worthwhile if we're thinking that the life year saved is worth like $125,000. Right? That would be like a 10 to 1 return basically. And then you put like men who are under 30 on a low cholesterol diet, so those guys don't really have much heart disease or heart attack risk at age 30, but I suppose eventually they will, maybe at 60 or something. If you start early, then that'll be helpful. And then you think about treating men who are somewhat older, but have a cholesterol level that's below 250, so they're at some risk of heart disease, but not so much risk, treating them with statins, and that gets like to be $20,000. And so you kind of keep on going, and basically what's happening is like, as you go down this chart, you're treating people who are basically at lower and lower risk of heart disease, right? And so, or getting a heart attack. And so if you're never going to get a heart attack anyway, then giving you the medicine obviously is not going to do anything because you were at no risk to begin with, and so the cost per life year saved of doing that is going to be quite high. And so like, it's not that the cost of treating a person increases, it's just that like the likelihood of avoiding a heart attack by treating a low risk person is very low, and so the cost per life year saved starts to become very high. And so at some point, you're basically down here like treating men who are only 20 and do really have somewhat high cholesterol levels, but just like generically people at age 20 do not get heart attacks, short of being exposed to some sort of trauma or something like that. So the cost per life year saved becomes really expensive. It's over $1 million at that point. So the message here, as you would perhaps expect, is that sort of the initial investments have a really high return, but as you sort of run out of people who are easy to treat or have big treatment effects, the return becomes lower and lower. The cost per life year saved gets higher and higher. And then radon is another example where you see basically the same type of pattern. So the cost per life year saved of radon control starts at only about $6,000 per life year saved. So again, using that like $125,000 rule of thumb, then that would be like a very worthwhile investment. Radon, for those of you who are not aware, is something that occurs naturally in the ground and can come up and then get trapped in houses. I know like we have friends who live in Atlanta, and there it's actually quite common. So you will actually, like people there, if they're aware of this, will do radon inspections and basically measure the amount of radon that's accumulating in your house. And if it turns out that it's above a certain level, then basically what you want to do is like put in radon control equipment, which pretty much just like circulates the air out of the house and makes sure that fresh air is coming in to remove it. So radon is a gas, if that wasn't clear. So I think eventually it can cause like lung cancer. So it's not something you want to, like it's not carbon monoxide where you could die in a matter of minutes if there's carbon monoxide in your house, but it's something that you would not want to be exposed to for many years on end. So basically, you can think about remediating radon at different levels, right? So like a house that has more than 21 parts per whatever, like per liter, that's pretty, like a pretty high level of radon. And so if you remediate the radon in that house, then the expected number of lives saved is relatively high, and so the cost per life saved is only $6,100. Then you can think about sort of setting a tougher standard and saying like, okay, now I'm going to lower the standard from 21 to 8. So all these houses that basically had a relatively moderate radon level that was below 21 but was above 8, now we're going to go and install remediation in those houses too to get rid of that radon. No, those houses, basically, the people in those houses are less danger, so it's less likely that they would have been killed by lung cancer related to radon. And so when you remediate now, you save some lives, but not so many, and it still costs the same per house to install this equipment. So now the cost per life saved has increased to $35,000, and then you get to sort of more expensive interventions. So now they're talking about like looking or trying to limit radon that's coming from human sources. One of them would be uranium mill tailings from mining operations for uranium to power nuclear reactors, and that probably still cost effective if your rule of thumb is 125K because there's only 49K. But then once you get to like radon remediation at homes that actually have relatively low levels of radon, that's not going to save that many lives, and so the cost per life saved goes up to like 140K. And so it's getting progressively more expensive to basically save lives from limiting radon as you go up the scale here. Okay, so I think the overall message that you should take away from this paper is that, as in financial investments, it makes sense to diversify. So if you look at these different categories like medical care and traffic safety and fire safety and so forth, basically what you conclude is you don't want to focus all of your investment in one area because we know that as you spend more and more in that area, you're sort of getting rid of more and more low-hanging fruit, and the cost per life saved is increasing. So at some point, then you want to switch to another area. In particular, eventually you're going to sort of reach this point of increasing costs and diminishing marginal returns, and so you should shift to something else. So maybe you started off spending on medical care, you spend a lot on medical care, but nothing on traffic safety or asbestos control or whatever, and at that point you want to start shifting into those other areas. So a very simplistic way would be to say it would be don't put all your eggs in one basket. So I'll just finish up here with this discussion of basically these articles that have appeared in the last year or two about mammogram screening. So I think these really kind of exemplify the issues that are framed by this health production function. So the New York Times reported last year that there was a study showing that mammograms may not reduce breast cancer or may not reduce the breast cancer death rate by very much. So this is like a sort of recommended screening after you get to a certain age if you're female, to try to detect breast cancer. The benefit, as you might imagine, as with all basic cancer screening strategies, is that if you get earlier detection, then the treatment is going to be more effective, and so you can potentially get some life year savings. So after it's metastasized and gone everywhere, it's very hard to cure people, but if you get it before it has spread to other places, then it's not so hard to cure people. One of the only exceptions to that is actually testicular cancer. So everybody knows about like Lance Armstrong, right? Because he had like he had testicular cancer and like it spread to his brain and everything, and then he went and got treated and survived, which is great. But it turns out that actually isn't that much of a miracle. It's kind of ironic, but because it spreads so quickly, it can actually be targeted by chemotherapy very, very easily, and so the survival rate is something like 90% even after it's metastasized all sorts of crazy places like your brain and so forth. So that's not to say that again one should not get screenings for these types of things because you don't want to actually undergo chemotherapy and so forth. But there are cases in which early detection we know really doesn't matter all that much. But breast cancer is one of those cases where we think that probably early detection does matter, and so if we could know, then we'd be able to catch those cancers early, take them out before they become fatal. But there's, of course, costs that are associated with that. And one cost is the screening cost itself. So I think it costs maybe several $100s to do a mammogram. Another cost is essentially the cost of false positives. So the real problem with all of these cancer detection strategies is that, and we'll talk again about this later on, so when we're talking more about healthcare than about environmental goods, but the cost of all of these things really is that it's kind of ironic that, like, as our technologies for detection get better, it can get even, or maybe not better is not the word. As our technologies for detection get more sensitive, you can detect, like, really small cancers. But the problem is it's so sensitive that sometimes you're not sure, is that actually, I detected something? Is that really like cancer, or is it just some other sort of benign tumor or growth or whatever? And so you actually have to go in there and you have to do like a biopsy, and they have to remove that, which, first of all, is not a comfortable thing for the patient. Also very costly because you're getting surgery involved now, and then you have to have the pathologist look at it. And so if you're getting, like, 10 false positives for every one true one, then the cost of doing like these 10 biopsies and only finding an actual cancer 1 out of every 10 times become pretty significant. There's also radiation costs. So it's it is an X-ray technology. So you're exposing all of these people, the entire population, or the entire female population, to radiation. So ironically, the screening technology itself will probably cause some cancers. And then finally, there are basically psychic costs of these become particularly relevant again with these false positives, where you have people who will get a mammogram and then they'll say, something doesn't look right there, and then they have to sort of sit there and wait thinking they have cancer for how many weeks or whatever until like the biopsy comes back and they find out no, it's actually okay. And you're like, well, but it's still much better than actually not catching it and dying from it, which is true. But at some point, it's like if you're getting like 10,000 people who think they have cancer, and for every one person who actually gets saved by it, at some point that trade-off starts to become relevant. So the questions are basically, do mammograms reduce the breast cancer death rate, and if so, at what cost? And the evidence is that they may not be that effective for sort of like women who are not so old and who don't have a history of breast cancer in the family. So there was a study that leveraged a natural experiment in Norway when mammography was introduced to women between 50 and 69. So basically, 50 to 69-year-olds were given regular mammograms starting in various years. 70 and over were not, because actually at some point, like, you get really old and you haven't had it yet, then you're unlikely to die from it. And all women qualify for a new breast cancer treatment as well. And the basic, which they also evaluated doing like sort of cross-country, like Norway versus Sweden type of comparison. The basic result is that there is some evidence that the new treatment reduced breast cancer mortality, but there's really little or no evidence that the mammography reduced breast cancer mortality. So they were finding, you're detecting something, but I guess the idea is basically that those early stage cancers you're detecting, first of all, you're not finding that many of them. And second of all, when you do find them, it turns out that maybe they would have grown so slowly that 20 years later the woman was going to die from something else anyway before that breast cancer ever became a problem. So it's not so clear that it's all that cost effective to invest in the screening technology for women who don't have some sort of family history or background that would predispose them to breast cancer. Now that's not, don't take that home with you. Just do whatever like the American Cancer Association says for the moment or whatever, because I don't want to be responsible for something that happens 20 years down the line here.